Welcome to episode 42 of the ManTFup podcast here in the Mancave. I'm KimmyB.
And Lenny.
And today we have an incredible guest with us, fresh off the cruise ship from, well, the Caribbean, but via Washington State, the fabulous Ms. Dawn Hunter. How are you?
Hey, good to be here, you guys. Thanks for inviting me.
No, for the purposes of today, we're going to call you Dr. Dawn. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right. Yeah. So Dr. Dawn is with us. Now, Len, you have a little bit more backstory on Dr. Dawn. I love the fact that, Lenny usually finds people by scrolling his Instagram or his TikTok or his Facebook timeline. But this time it was an actual real life run-in at a local spot here before you embarked on your cruise. Yeah? Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let the people know how you met and how Dr. Dawn ended up. I'm sorry in advance, Dr. Dawn. Here in the man cave.
Well, it's not really a long story. Uh-huh. We were sitting at a bar having dinner at where we had our Christmas party.
Okay.
As a matter of fact. And I don't know how the conversation got sparked, but we started talking, and Dr. Dawn had some insights into the whole toxic masculinity issue that we've been bouncing off of for the past, which I thought were kind of enlightening and gave me hope for women everywhere. But so it was an interesting conversation. I said, hey, why don't you come on the podcast? And next thing you know, here we are. Well, a week later.
I do recall some alcohol involved, though.
Maybe a little. Listen, if that's going to help, we can get a shot right now.
I just, I don't understand.
I was like, yeah, I'm coming on the show and give me that martini again. We're getting ready for a cruise. Let's go. And then after, I'm like, did I just sign up for that? All right, cool.
And her fiance's like, haven't you had enough fun?
Well, it's going to be interesting if maybe after a week on a large vessel, if any of those thoughts of toxic masculinity have changed at all. But then Dr. Dawn, obviously, I did not research. Lenny sent me your Instagram profile, and you're in, kind of the beauty industry out there in the lovely state of Washington. Is there any other context that you think the ManTFup audience should have about who you are, your background, where you come from, before we get into this conversation about male, female, toxic masculinity? I was sharing with Dr. Dawn that last week's episode was about Joe Rogan and, his comments on masculinity being under attack in this country. And so we've kind of been on this tip in 2023.
Yeah. Well, anything specific to this topic, I think, we can talk about lots of things, but what came up with this is we started talking about what alpha male means, what a real alpha male means. And I think for me, being Canadian, so I grew up in Canada with lumberjacks. My dad was a big ice road trucker, and having that environment, but then also growing up in Southern California, having lived in the Caribbean as a kid, I was kind of exposed to different cultures about what masculinity is as a female. And then I had very powerful mom and grandmother that influenced me. So all of this came together to kind of have my own opinion. And funny enough, in my life, I mentor women, right? Okay. So that's what I do for a living. I help them get into beauty industries, become their own boss, and empower them a lot. And I see so much up here that they're missing in that influence of what is it to be a female, own a business, or just you're empowered in yourself, but also what kind of mate are you looking for that? How do you find that counter? And I see a lot of them just have these messages that either they've gotten from their upbringing, their culture, that they don't have that confidence in what they're selecting or what they feel the right type of male figure for them should be. And so I've had this thread throughout my life of telling women, no, you don't need that. Go for this, go for that. And then I have a lot of single women friends that I just naturally start coaching. And I'm like, how did I end up here? I don't know. But, I have my own thoughts on it. And I think that's where we were thinking this would be a really cool discussion, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, again, to extremes. A man does not necessarily not want a woman to be successful on her own, doing things. But by the same token, he wants her to still be a woman to him, and that type of thing. And I think that's where some of these extremes have gone. For a woman to be empowered and successful, she feels like she needs to put the man aside. And that's not really how I feel about it. I think, I think it needs to be more supportive. And I think, men are looking for traditional women and traditional things that women represent. And I think a lot of that is being pushed aside by the fact that women, you know.
But traditional in what sense? And I say that because, you know, a housewife wasn't always traditional. Like if you go back, and I hate to say the 1800s, when majority of people were poor as shit, everybody had to work, right? Like the woman had to be out in the field helping plow, or she had to be mending things, or she was a laundress, or she helped actually unload carts and carriages that came into town. So then we get to this beautiful period. I'm assuming you're going back when you say traditional to the 50s, where it was, you know, wifey got to stay home and she cooked and the martini was ready when homeboy walked into the house at night.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're talking about careers and talking about assistance in the home. I'm talking about just...
What's a traditional woman then?
I'm talking about traditional values of a woman. That the man is the man. When you go to dinner, I
want the door open for you.
Yeah, you open the door for the woman. You know, I mean, I've met women.
But what does that have to do?
I've sat down and I've had a woman order for me, and I'm like, "What are you doing? I'm not deciding. What are you? You know, sorry, this is over." You know, those kind of things are the things that men need, and that's what's getting lost. It's not about careers.
Okay, but you started off by saying for a woman to be empowered and have a career, she's got to set the man aside. So you started off. This is why I'm saying.
Yeah.
So separate the two. This has got nothing to do.
I didn't say she has to. I said she is.
But what I'm saying, this has got nothing to do then with what women see themselves as as far as I feel like that's the problem, is that there's two different conversations happening.
The net is this, right? If you look at science, let's go back to science, right? We are in these bodies, we have hormones that have been established since human beings have been on this planet. All we have to do is look at the animal culture, right? So you see the lion and the lionesses, right? There's no way that a lioness is not empowered. They crush, right? They're the ones that do the hunting and the babies and all of that. What is the lion's job? To protect them and fight off the ones that want to come in that maybe are weaker, and to make sure everybody's safe, right? That's what their job is. That's really what a lion's job is, nothing more than that. So then we look at other cultures. Look at the horse culture. You know, look at the equine culture. You see all the mares. And I can tell you from working in the female industry, and this by no means is, again, don't get on my case, ladies, okay? I work in the industry, I know. You get a crowd of women in a room, and that estrogen just goes up, and a male walks in, everybody calms down. I've seen it over and over and over, and I believe, and I know because I have a doctorate, right? So I've done some human anatomy. It's a scent. It's a science thing. It's not anything up here. It's so it's body language. It's a thing you can't control, right? And when you're outside that norm, that's why women get stressed out when they're with beta guys. Because it's like those dogs, like those little, and look at the dog culture. When you see a dog, what do they want? They want a leader. They want someone they can trust, and then the rest of the pack settles down and they can be enjoying their lives. When you see a dog, and we have a neighbor named Dawn, who I love, but he's got this like beta dog who bites everybody because he doesn't know who's in charge. Every time Dawn the neighbor with this dog, and we're like, oh my God, there comes Sparky again. And I keep telling him, you got to train this dog, and you got to, oh no, Sparky runs the show. Well, no, Sparky shouldn't be running the show.
Sparky's a dog.
Because he's a dog, and it stresses Sparky out to be in, because he doesn't know who's boss. So he tries to be the boss, and he doesn't know how to do it. So it's not about power. It's about what are the roles that work best for all of us, right? And when you say traditional, I know what you're saying. You're not saying stay at home. I mean, who wants to clean a house all day? Like, come on. Nobody wants to do that unless that's their profession. So by saying a woman's traditional role is clean, that's ridiculous. That's not what you mean. What you mean is you want a feminine woman to be empowered to be feminine. And the way she gets that way is by letting you be the alpha and go, okay, I can just be a woman now. Right? That's the problem. When you're a woman and you're with what I call beta guy, insecure, everything's equal bullshit. I'm sorry, it is. Like when I go to dinner, if you ask me on a date and you ask me to pay 50%, I'd be like, that's just culturally not what I want, right? I want someone that I feel I can rely on, that can take care of things. And it doesn't mean by any means that I'm not being feminist or whatever because of that. It's just that's the nature. You can't fight it, right? So that's where the problem lies, is that women are being told, no, you got to be this, and this. Guys are being told, back off, be PC, like don't open the door for her. You might offend her. You know what I mean? So guys don't even know their roles anymore.
But I want to know who, but who? I don't know a woman. Real talk. I don't have any female friends that would tell a guy, don't hold the door for me. And my friends are all very successful, quote unquote, independent women. So I feel like, again, it's this, and I hate to use the word narrative because it's overplayed, but it's this narrative that's gotten spun. And now automatically if a woman, now don't get me wrong, I also do know plenty of women, to your point, that are very quick to let men that they're dating know that they don't need them, right? Like that's one of those things like I've got this, I don't need you, whatever. And I've learned over the years that is not that, like, a man worth his salt already knows.
Yeah.
Right? Like women, we don't need to necessarily verbalize or vocalize that, because trust and believe me, you exude that, right? Like there's something that when a woman walks in, I think that you can tell if she's got her shit together, if she's got it under control. We don't need to go around. Again, it's almost like the picture of the man pounding on his chest. That's almost the female version of that, right?
Right.
That flexing that we do, like, I don't need you for this. Like,
I think it's a defensive mechanism for women.
For sure.
I think it's a woman who's not empowered in herself. Because you don't have to say anything as a female. You can walk in a room. That's all you got to do, right? So it's more about, what are these women being told in their upbringing? What is their cultural beliefs? What's being fed to them as they're growing up? What kind of role models have they had? And unfortunately, the mothers and the grandmothers that they've had have been beat down. So they don't even know how to tell them, this is what it means to be a feminine woman. There's power in the female. You don't have to do more than that, than just be a female, truthfully, right?
Yeah.
And most alpha guys that I know, they don't really care what your career is, honestly. They're just like, just be you. You're enough. You're enough, just you, and we'll do this together, or I'll take care of it, or we'll do it together. We'll figure it out, So it's not, I think women need to also realize that just being a female and just owning your femininity is great. Like, that's it, And I think that some women monetize on it easier in their careers. They get into those kind of careers, and other women are forced into, or choose to go into more corporate. But I can tell you this for sure. If I were to sit down and talk to a woman right now who's working in finance on Wall Street, and she's with all the guys, she's going home super stressed out, because she's not in her culture. I mean, she's not in her, there's no other women there to commiserate with. There's no other women to connect with. It's very male dominated. It's a different culture. It's a different hormone.
Yeah, you have to put up a front.
You have to put up a front, and then you go home and you break down. You're like, okay, that was stressful. And it's a secret they hide. They don't talk about it. But there's all kinds of research on it. There's books on it. Their hormones, their stress hormones go up. I'm not saying not do it. I'm just saying know what you're getting into and own it, that the fact that maybe you need to find a way to buffer it or whatever. And it's not like you're not going to want to be in those industries, of course, but be a woman in the industry. Don't try to be a guy. That's not going to work. Go in with your own power.
There's balance to that too. And this goes, sort of what I was saying, Kimmy, and you, for instance, if you go out on a date, if someone asks you out on a date, don't you offer to pay half?
No, I've clarified this on numerous occasions. If I actually am attracted to you and I feel like there's a connection there and I want to go on a second date, no, I wouldn't.
So
do
you're
that.
trying him.
Like,
you're seeing if he asks for half.
Well, no, because the guys that I go out with don't. Like I told you, the last real date that I went on, like the guy was completely, like when I went on a date with somebody that I didn't know prior to, like he was completely offended, but I knew I didn't want to go out with him again. And there are certain things, and I also know in this culture in South Florida, like, and with what I do for a profession, the last thing I want is somebody out here in these streets talking about, oh, she went out with me just for a free meal, because that is also something, like, you come from Washington State, here in South Florida, in Miami, and in Fort Lauderdale, women unfortunately have a reputation of,
gold
dating and dining, right? Like I went out with this guy just for a dinner, right? I can pay for my own dinners. Like, and so if I go out with somebody, I drink expensive things. So I don't want to have $120 bar tab and you had a seltzer water and I'm never going out with you again. Like, nah, I got it. Like, I got it, because I'm not interested in you like that. But I would not try a man's masculinity that I was actually interested in going out with again. And to Dawn's point, if he asked me for half in that situation and I was attracted to him, I probably wouldn't be anymore. Do you know what I mean?
How are you weeding out your dates though then? Why are you going out on a date at all with someone that you're not interested in?
Oh no, it was literally when I was getting a new show. This was like during COVID.
Okay.
I signed up.
COVID,
I signed up for Hinge for content for my morning show.
Oh.
Like intentionally.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, well this guy, he was physically my type, and he was like, hey, you want to go out? And this was literally when we had just dropped like the restrictions in South Florida, which is obviously well before many other places.
Yeah.
So we went
like
out
2 weeks after
we
it started.
Well, yeah, no, it was. It was probably like in April or May, right? And I think things got locked down in March. But we went out casually, and so it was just kind of one of those situations.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, he reached out to me. He was like, "I have to take you out again. Like you can't." He's like that, and we never ended up going out again because I just like I said, I was not interested. But he went up to go to the bathroom, and I paid. Like, because I knew he wasn't gonna. I mean, he's a Haitian dude. Like, he was very.
Did he leave his
very
man card?
masculine.
Here's my thing. No, I don't care if you're on a dating site, and I tell this to a lot of my girlfriends, right? Like, I met Matt on Tinder, right? But I made my profile a certain way because I don't have time. I'm a single mom. I'm like, I'm not gonna go out with all these jokers and waste my time. So first of all, it was weeding out who do I really want to even go out with? And then if I did actually finally go out with one after I'm like looking, and I always would make them FaceTime me too. I'm like, I got to see you for real, right? Because, all that catfish. But, if you're going to take the time to do that, to me, that meeting is your very first, it's like the first performance, right? Well, if your first performance is meeting me for coffee, that's pretty lowbrow. I'm not interested. I want the full performance. I want you to show up and show some effort, because as relationships go on, if that's your best effort is taking me for coffee or meeting me at the park, no, then why should I even meet you, period? I can do all that online, whatever. So it's kind of like that's how I did it. It was just felt more efficient that way. And then, if I did like get to that step where I'm like, okay, let's go out on, I do want to date this person, or let me get to meet them, I want you to take me to dinner. I'm not going to meet you for coffee. I want you to actually take me to dinner. And at that point, if we don't connect, oh, well, I met a great person. I got to know you, and yeah, you're paying for it. You're the man. You invited me to the dinner. I didn't ask you for the date. You asked me. That's how it goes. And then if it doesn't work out, great. The guy still feels good about it, though. I don't know. Does the guy feel good about taking a girl out for dinner and then she pays for it?
I'm sure.
No.
I just answered your question.
A real alpha guy doesn't.
He didn't feel good about it.
That. Would you not?
But
Listen,
that's the point. But I was not interested. So not that I didn't care how he felt about it.
But you offended him because you paid for it.
Well, clearly. And like I said, and I apologize for being offensive.
Let the guy spend his money. Come on, girl.
Well, I get that. But at the end of the day, I still just
It's
don't
almost
want
like women are trying to get back at men for being,
No, it wasn't about getting back at. It was just being very clear. And what I didn't
Not
want
saying
was
you.
You're in a different profession, though, and I understand when you're a public figure. I get what she's saying. You're the outlier, right? Most women are not on TV.
Facts.
Okay, so
Facts.
let's step that aside. That's not the norm.
Yes, and what I don't want
is
somebody under my comment on Instagram talking about I took her out and whatever. Like she just went out.
Do you think a guy
like,
would actually want to publicly say?
Listen
that you
to
paid
me,
for his
honey.
dinner?
Have you? No. No, exactly. He would never say that. But what he would say is, "Oh, she just went out with me for a dinner." Do you understand what I'm saying?
Who does that?
Cheesy cornball people, and you never
Then
know
you
when
need
you're
to
running
quit
into one of
dating
those
guys.
Well, no, I haven't dated one of those guys. But what I'm saying is because I take the proper precautions to not end up in that situation. But I fully understand. To your point, no, that is emasculating, clearly. Right. So,
But
especially if you're interested, don't do that, lady.
Do you feel like there's not enough women who are taking the time to understand a man on the primal level, like we were talking about, on the just pure nature of a man and the nature of a woman? And is there not enough men who are taking the time to learn and understand women?
I could comment to that. I have a lot of girlfriends that like I said, it's part of how you've been raised, I think, and what did your mom instill in you, as a female, right? My mom was, she was a VP of a hotel. She was gorgeous. She was a model. She could rock that lipstick and then go to a board meeting. But there wasn't like a compromise. She was still a really good mom, took me around the world. And, she told me at one point, call them all honey and babe so you don't mix up their names. She said, not in a rude way. She meant, find who you really want to be with. Don't get locked in for some other reasons, right? It wasn't about not being respectful to men. It was more about, what do I want? Who's going to treat me well? Who's going to take care of me, right? And that I can just be me. And that's what she was instilling, not a negativity thing. It was a positive thing. And I was raised around that. And my dad was very alpha. I mean, he was an ice road trucker, and he was anyway, he played a hitman on TV, and so I was raised with Canadian lumberjacks. There's no beta guys there. There's no, that kind of thing. So I never really saw, and I think that depends, like I said, how you're raised, right? And if you were raised in a way that suppresses you from what you really want, you have to unwind that. You got to get that garbage out, and you got to figure out, oh my gosh, I was being told that I should be less than. Holy cow, I need to figure this out. So that's probably a lot of what women and men that feel that way need to do. They need to do some self-therapy, right?
But I also feel like to that point, when you are raised with strong and empowered women, you don't settle for those things. So that can look different. And it's not necessarily that you want to emasculate men or that
you just don't know.
Or it's you're just not what I'm looking for. So I can date and move on. Like I can be in a situation, I can enjoy it for what it is, and then I can cut ties and go on to something else. Like I can't sit here and say that, I think strength manifests itself in different ways, and then you end up prioritizing different things. My grandmother she's no longer with us, rock star, to your point. Like, she married somebody, she'll tell you, I knew I shouldn't marry this man the day before I married him. They were together for 23 years. My grandfather was a loon boon, but was amazing and a business owner. But when she was done, she was done. And she moved on and she became a business owner, and she dated and she followed a guru to Hawaii, and she gave her children, everything, but she was just a rock star, and she was she was very big on manifestation, and she was everybody's rock. But it's like, that was a woman who, she learned to prioritize and to prioritize herself, and she instilled that in her children. My mom, on the other hand, she's not a silent person. She's so ridiculously strong, but she's not going to vocalize. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to sit back and observe, and she's going to watch things. And that's something that
I think strength comes in many forms.
For sure.
And owning the roost and being the matriarch of your home, that's super powerful. Like, there's nothing, it's not like you said, to your point about, it's not defining it to, you have to be a career woman. I mean, running a home is an important job. Taking care of your kids, empowering, right? So it's not about you're doing one thing. It's what do you love? What is your natural passion? And how can you find the mate that will support you on that and have that life together, right? And I find that when we talk about this alpha thing, I think it gets such a bad rap, the name. When you really understand it, it's the person, the guy that walks in the room, and I hate to say it just this way, who's the silent strength of the room, right? We always say, how do you are when you walk in the room? It's not the loud person all the time. He could be loud or not loud, but it's the one that that when things go bad and things aren't fun and things aren't sexy, that they're there and they're holding up the roof, right? And so that's really what women want. And if you look at women culture overall, why do women buy Harlequin romance magazines? I don't read those, but why do they buy them? Why is that? Well, you always see ladies reading Harlequin, like, certain culture. Why? Because they're looking for the strong guy. They're reading this romance, and romance in itself, women need. We need romance. We know that. We need romance. We need flowers. We need to be felt beautiful. We need gifts. It doesn't have to be expensive, but we need to feel like you appreciate us as a woman, and that's how we feel appreciated in a lot of ways. And verbalizing sometimes. But, men have a different way, right? An alpha guy is like, look, I don't really need much from you. Just be a woman. That's all you got to do.
Pretty much it.
Just be a girl, and it takes like such a relief. You're like, oh, that's it? That's all I got to do? I just got to be me? Wow, that's a relief, right? And so it takes the pressure off of you. But when you're it's kind of like Sparky the dog. When you're with a beta guy, I feel like the guy's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and things go bad, and then they look at you. Are you going to keep the roof up? Oh yeah, you're strong. You do it. And then the girl's like, wait a minute. And everybody's edgy and everybody's freaking out. Nobody knows what's going on, And I think that's part of what people are missing, and women in general aren't seeing that, and men probably too. And you had mentioned, what did you say in the car? 20%.
Yeah,
the male.
I mentioned that to Kimmy the other day too. Yeah, that you have 100% of the female population is attractive to men, but only about 20% of the male population is attractive to women. So that limits it a
Where'd
lot.
that data come from?
Good luck with that. It's an opinion of a few people that I've heard.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense because you have CEOs and you have workers, and that's the not everybody is a CEO. Not every man is cut out to be a CEO. So not every man is going to be that top dog or that that alpha guy. So if you look at the numbers of that, how many men are, bosses versus how many men are workers, you're going to boil down to the same thing. That's their profile. It just makes sense. But 100% of women are women. somewhere.
I wouldn't say that CEO signifies alpha in any way. Right?
No,
like,
but
you don't want to
leaders,
say like
leaders.
But you
bosses.
could be a leader. You could be a leader in your community. You could be a leader at the basketball thing. You could
Yeah,
be a leader with
absolutely.
kids at your school.
Absolutely.
Leader in the East End of the Bronx. I mean, there's so many ways to be a leader and to be what we call alpha, right, in your community and with your family and stuff. So I don't think it's defined by a job or a career. I think it's just how are they raised?
But how many men really are alphas though? Like that's the other issue.
Let me ask you this:
like
how many men that you've met in your life? How many do you feel that were attractive? I mean, you meet men every day.
Like you said, that's a very different situation though. Somebody can be physically attractive. I can see you and be like, God
have
damn.
you ever met somebody that you didn't necessarily first think they were physically attractive, but there was something about them that you were attracted to?
Yeah, but you have to have that conversation. I mean, you have to be open to that conversation. And yes, I dated somebody like that.
I think it could be less than conversation. I think you can walk into a room full of people and pick out who you might be attracted to or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Without visual.
Yeah.
Without visual. Without that.
That doesn't even make sense, Len.
I think he means without like a
without saying, hey, that guy's got a hot body or that girl's got a hot ass.
They don't have to be a physical specimen because we all know people that are really good looking and you're like, I have no interest in that. They have no charisma, they have no game, they have nothing. Like it's just a blank slate, like a Barbie doll.
But you think you would be attracted to somebody? So you see somebody that you have zero physical attraction to.
No.
You're in a bar
zero
setting.
Physical attraction.
But however, we do know that there's a certain kind of, I hate to go back to this, sounds so animalistic, but a certain kind of scent that women pick up on and men pick up on. It's you can't smell it.
Pheromones.
It's pheromones, and it's the more testosterone a guy puts out, the more women are attracted to it. The truth is, right? And it doesn't mean that they have to be physically this Adonis guy. That's not what.
Well, not everybody is attracted to that either. What I'm saying to you is,
but as a female,
I have
you
never
can't help but be attracted to it because it's in your hormones.
Okay, I've never given I can't say that honestly. I've been in a bar situation or in a situation where I didn't know somebody and they've walked in and they weren't fit. They didn't catch my eye physically. I've dated somebody for 2 years that would have never been my type, but that rapport grew over time and he was hilarious, and the way he was with my mother, like there were things about him, and he took care of his family. So there were things that made him very attractive to me later on down the line. But physically, absolutely not. But I had the opportunity to get to know him because of extenuating.
Are you with him now?
No.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Well, like, what? Not in details. Like, what happened? Did
it turn out that he just wasn't the man you expected, or?
He was incredible, and we're still friends to this day. I think you can have right people, wrong time. Like again, it was a situation. He's a professional athlete, so he had people.
Oh, got it.
Like so there was probably some cheating and some distance and whatever. But it's not like one particular thing happened and it was like, oh my God, and it exploded. It was just like, okay, this has run its course, and
I never expected you with a lineman.
No, he wasn't a lineman.
Well, you said physically not your type, so.
Well, no. I mean, not more his face. But that's my point. Like, I don't know that I've ever been in a situation where I'm like, now there are people who have a swag. Like, yeah, I can look at some people like, I can use a famous, like a Jay-Z, not physically attractive to me at all, but his swag, his business acumen, the way he carries himself can make him attractive.
Yeah, but if you haven't met him, you don't even know if that's real. That's kind of because.
But that's the same. But now you're contradicting yourself.
No.
Because that's the same thing you're saying people have. Like when there's a person in a room.
You're talking about a celebrity. So what you see of a celebrity's life.
I'm like, why are you adding that into it? What I'm saying to you is I'm agreeing to your point of like there's a swag and a charisma.
Yes.
So to somebody that you're not physically attracted to, this guy is not handsome to me, but the way he carries himself, whether it's real or not.
It's called confidence, right?
Yeah.
So confidence is, everybody likes confidence. Mm-hmm. And I think we're humans. We have our moods. Sometimes we feel more confident some days than other. But I think having that sense of self-confidence that's ingrained in you, when we were talking about the alpha male, right? That's what this whole thing was about. When you're what you call alpha, you carry that through. It's in your DNA, right? It's every day. You just walk it. They're the guys that I saw this on the boat. We were on the boat. There's this huge Croatian guy, and he's walking around, and I was looking at him like I could just tell that he would take care of stuff, right? And I walk by, and he helps this little old guy get out of his chair. He grabs the guy and helps him up, and his fork drops, and I'm like, I didn't see anybody else on this in this area do that for this guy. This guy did that, right? Matt would have done that if he would have been there. So there's things like that that you just pick up on subconsciously. You can't put a thing in it, but you're like, that's the kind of person I want to be with, right? But if your radar's off, if your subconscious messaging is off as a female, you're never going to know that that's right.
And see, I think that's what's happening. I think between, and it's not necessarily your generation, my generation. It's society as a whole is kind of, flipping roles and making even women who are brought up with, a hierarchy in their house, being the male, the female, just like in any other situation, they're being led astray by other things. And like I said, I'm all for a woman who wants to have a career and have and be the boss wherever. But when she comes home, she's now coming home to the boss of the, you know what I mean? Not the boss, but the
man.
The man.
She's coming home to
the man. She's coming home to the man. And it's hard to say, but I saw this woman, she like walks up and starts just taking charge of a situation with the man standing right there, and he's like, and it's like, what is that? What is that?
Because she's lost respect for him. And that's what you'll see, right? If the guy's not stepping up or whatever she feels is stepping up, she's going to lose respect. She's like, oh, okay, I'll just do it. I'll take over. And I think part of the issue with, you're talking about coming home. Every woman, I don't care who they are, whether she's straight, gay, it doesn't matter, right? They want to come, everybody wants to come home to a soft pillow and someone gives them a hug and they feel has their back, right? And takes care of things. No, who doesn't want that, right? And so when the female comes home, let's say we're doing the scenario of the working woman, she has her own business. She's been in that testosterone mode all day long, right? And she's stressed out. We know this from the science, okay? We know this from the science that women, when put into the roles of that kind of what you would typically say male dominated role, running a business is a testosterone-driven side. It's not a feminine side. You got to do all these things, especially if you're a female boss, right? And that's where a lot of women struggle. They do, actually. And we know girl culture. Okay, you get a bunch of girls together, and some of them are very disrespectful to female owners. They we know this from science too. But
I want to clarify though, you're not saying that women struggle running businesses.
No.
You're talking about the test, like that.
I'm talking about the internal.
It's
struggle
a
with the
struggle
body.
to run a business.
I just wanted to make sure that was very. That was.
It's a struggle for a man to run a business too. So
I've owned businesses my whole life since third grade. Okay, believe me, I know, and I know what it feels like to be alone at the top, right, where you're like alone. You don't feel like you have that partner or whatever sometimes, and and truthfully, we know this from female culture versus male culture. So in female culture, as women or girls are being raised up, they're always taught everything is equal, right? There is no better, there's no alpha girl. If she tries to be better, they bring her down. This is science. This isn't this is like what they've studied in women culture. That's why, and it carries over into the female workplace. So that's why you get this, what they call the cattiness syndrome, right? When who does she think? We have to bring her down.
It's like the mean girls versus having the leader, the
Yeah.
guy. Like for guys, they're looking for
They
the
want
dude
a
that's
leader.
going to lead the
Yeah.
pack. They're looking for the quarterback.
Exactly.
Whereas with the mean girl syndrome, she can have her time, but eventually somebody's going to come and try to take her down.
Yeah, you can only go so high, and then they're going to pull you back. That's the women culture. That's how girls are raised, and
isn't that the same? Isn't that the same throughout all of the Animal Planet? Also, I mean, with when you have the lion and the lioness, there's a head lioness, and it's a pecking order, and they fight for it. They all fight for it.
Well, they have to work together. If you think about it, I know this sounds kind of, don't get on me, everybody, but if you look back in the day, typically men went out and hunted, right? Because also the male brain, we know, is different than the female brain. The women, we have a larger, what they call corpus callosum in our brain. We have a bigger brain, and what it does is it feeds, it gives the connection between the right and left faster. We have a faster freeway, so we can be on the phone multitasking, have a kid here crying, yell at our friend, and have an argument with you at the same time.
Survival of the fittest.
We're able to do that. Where men's brain is segmented into focus. I'm watching football. Okay, what do you want? And you guys can't handle it, or if we come in and we're trying to talk to you because we're female, we communicate, right? We have conversation and we need conversation because that's how socially we are as females, right? and you're watching a football game, and then we're like, why aren't you listening to me? And you're like, because my brain can't handle it. I'm focusing on football, or I'm supposed to be hunting. If you think about it in the very animalistic sense, you guys are supposed to go fight, go hunt, keep our thing, and women were supposed to get along. We're supposed to socialize as a pack, and we raise children together. That's really what we are, right? If you get down to the net. Mm-hmm. But now we have all these things, right? We have all these things, but that doesn't change. We're still made that way, and so we got to figure it all out. How do we do it where maybe I don't want to stay home with babies all day. Maybe I'm the kind of female that doesn't find that exciting, right? And there's a lot of women out there. I love being a mom, and I love it, but I also like the challenge of work. I think I'd go brain dead with just being around kids all day and cleaning a house.
That's not for you.
It's not for me.
Yeah,
but I think it's very important, and I think people need to do what they love, and women that love doing that and do a great job at that, that's what they need to focus on and enjoy and feel okay about it. I think part of it is they make them feel like you're less than if you're only just being at home, which is to me ridiculous, right? Because being at home and running a home is very, very
wild.
important. Yeah.
Wild. Like, that's a lot. Like, honestly, I have the utmost respect, and we've had that conversation here. That's a different conversation, because we were discussing this before we started the podcast about how judgmental women are of one another. You know what I mean? And even people who claim to be feminists, right, will quickly point a finger at the woman who wants to pose in Playboy or be on OnlyFans or stay at home with their babies and take care of a house. And it's like, at the end of the day, feminism at its core is about equality and women having a choice, right? So whether that choice is to stay at home and raise a family and take care of your household, or to pose naked in a magazine, or to be a CEO, or to be an activist, like, that's what this is supposed to be about, and we're supposed to support each other in that, and that is the last thing that we do. Like, it's all rah, rah, rah until maybe I don't know, I'm jealous of what you have. I don't know what that looks like, and then all of a sudden it all goes to shit. But I want to go back to your, like, what I'm frustrated about in the dynamic of this conversation is that we seem to be overlooking the fact that men have also changed. Like, in talking about the man that you said was like, while his wife took over the situation, why is it women's fault that more men have become beta men? Like, that's the bigger conversation here. Like, I don't know why, like, it feels like this conversation always comes back to women not letting men be men.
I don't think it's a new thing. I think there's always been beta men.
Yeah.
You can't have alphas everywhere, right?
But I think a lot of women are taking empowerment in the, you have the whole Me Too movement. You have all this stuff going on, all this empowerment of women and this and that. They're taking it to, okay, say you are a stay-at-home mom. Okay, it's just now you're getting empowered. What do you have control over? What are you going to take control over? You're going to take control over your husband. Do you know what I'm saying?
But you can only do that if he allows you to, and in which case,
but,
he's clearly not an alpha. Like,
I understand
we didn't make you a beta. That was who you are intrinsically. Either that's what you saw growing up. Like, I don't understand. To make the point, I don't think every man is an alpha man. You know what I'm saying?
They're not.
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
And listen, I can tell you from a group of 25 people at a party. I told you the story. We go to this party. It's a Christmas party, right? Sit down, table. All the wives are like, aren't you going to eat? And I'm like, isn't my wife here? Not even 30 seconds later, my plate goes right in front of me. And they're like, so it's like this whole group of people. And and it's not to say anything other than
that makes you an alpha male, though?
No, I didn't say that. I just said it's roles. And Rachel takes her role like this, and all of these other women there don't take care of their husband. I consider that taking care of me. Okay, that's what I do. I'll go out.
Language.
I'll go out. I'll light the barbecue. I'll cook the food. You serve it. That's it. If we're at an event or at a party, I would expect my wife to take care of me. Now, see, that's just normal for me.
But see, a lot of, and I know what you're saying, okay? It depends on that relationship, what you guys make agreements on. This is what I want, your love languagey thing, right? And in a lot of cultures, women might look at that as like, oh, well, I'm being this traditional role, and I don't want to be that where I'm serving. And that's how they were raised. They just think that. But there's also roles where it's like that's showing love, so I think it depends on the individual relationship, what they define as love and care. You know, maybe doing the laundry and ironing the shirt really nicely for your husband and putting it in there before you go to work is showing love to him. That's his love language, right? Or maybe it's just being, you know, naked all the time. Maybe it's just having hot sex all the time.
Yes.
That's the guy's love language.
Yes.
I mean, you find it out in the relationship, but at the end of the day, you're still an alpha.
But
okay, but it doesn't mean you're negating your female. She's an alpha too. Remember, there's alpha females.
That situation put her in a weird space with all the rest of the wives. They looked at her a certain way after that. Do you follow me?
Because she's.
I do, but why did you have to point that out? Like, that also has to do with the way that
we're talking about how women.
No, but you said it though in the setting, not on this podcast.
Yes.
You made it a point to be like, "Isn't my wife here?" Which
because first of all, that's just the way I am.
I know that. I know that though, but that doesn't.
But it's because it's the way I was approached with it.
So, but don't necessarily put that on the other women at the table, because some of them may have looked at that as demeaning in the sense of the way that you addressed it. Like, you think I'm going to get up and go get my own plate of food? No, that's what my wife is for. So you may have painted her.
I didn't say that. I
said, isn't my wife
I didn't
here?
say that's what my wife is for.
You said, isn't my wife
isn't
here?
my wife here? Because my wife takes care of that for me.
I get that, Len, but don't blame that on the other women necessarily.
I'm not blaming it on the other women. I'm saying the other women now look at my wife different.
Yeah, because also, but it could be the way that you said it could have been perceived as just
I said
demeaning.
It just like I said.
They may have
my
felt
wife
bad
here?
for her. They may have actually felt bad, like, God, he's a dick.
Yeah, but that's
because their men would never
that's the point.
speak
She was
about
happy
them in
to
that
do
way.
it.
I get that, but they're not. That's not about Rachel. That could have been about you, Len. Like, so it's not necessarily that they're looking down on her for serving her man. They could be looking at you like you're an ass and don't deserve her.
I think it depends. Okay, I think there's so much to this topic, right? Like, it can go.
It's
so
endless.
Deep. But you know, you have to look at, you know, the whole point is the alpha, right? We were going to talk about that, but culturally, there's so much complexity. Like I, dated when I was, in my 20s. I had a boyfriend who was half Latino, right? And his mom was from Pueblo, Colorado, very traditional Hispanic. And you did
machismo.
Yeah, and you couldn't say that word. That offended them for some reason. I don't know, but she was an amazing cook, and I enjoyed so much being around her and learning how to make the tamales and all that. And I thought it was really great. I'm not a passionate cook. I'm an artist. I paint. But, here's the thing that I always felt is like what happened in that situation was that she was upset. She would tell him in his ear, why are you with this girl? She doesn't even cook. Why are you with this girl? She doesn't help clean. Why are you with and she was, and he, in his mind was like, that's not what I want though in my female. I want someone who will, who's artistic. He saw that value. Yes, his mom did that for him, but to him, that wasn't what he was necessarily looking for his woman, right? So I think it's so individual and also cultural. But I felt in that environment, I'm coming from feeling pretty strong about myself. I felt like, why is she putting that on me? I didn't ask to make the tamales. Why did I spend 3 hours cleaning up for? You invited me over. But she immediately put me in that role because that was her culture, right? I'm supposed to stay behind. I'm supposed to serve. I'm supposed to clean. I'm supposed to just sit there with my apron. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's her culture. And that's what she loved to do. That was her gift of love, cooking for her boys, right? And I appreciated all of that. And I totally appreciate that. I'll sit back and enjoy any cook, male or female. It's just, I'm an artist. But here's the funny thing. Being a painter, I don't get that same accolade from the women, like, oh, why didn't she say, wow, Dawn, you're such a gifted painter? Why is it that because I'm not cooking and I'm not cleaning that I'm less than as a female? You see, so it's a reverse too.
Yeah.
You get that from different angles, and it depends culturally where that was. And he struggled with that, fighting with his mom. He had to have an out with her, like, look, this is not what I'm interested in, And so it's complex. It's complex, And I know what you're saying is that they looked at your wife differently because their culture maybe wasn't showing love by serving.
Or could it have been
they
what
wear
he
the pants
said
in their house
in reference to it?
Where's my wife?
No,
I don't know. I wasn't
isn't
there.
my wife here? They asked, aren't you eating? And he said, isn't my wife here?
and literally less than 30 seconds later my plate hit the table.
Okay, let me ask this. In Colombia, would that be a big deal? If he said that, where's my wife? Wouldn't it be like normal?
No, because in Colombia they serve their man.
That's what I'm saying. It would be normal for
They serve their man.
My wife. So that's what I mean. Culturally, there's, you know, depends on
But
who's
again,
in the
we're
room.
putting it on the women looking down on his wife, and all I'm trying to point out is that they really could have been looking down on you.
Yeah,
for
they
just
all think I'm an
assuming-
asshole. They already knew I was an
Okay.
asshole.
So then that's not necessarily about them ostracizing Rachel for being an incredible wife, because she is. Like, I wouldn't.
No,
look at Rachel
but
as
the
being-
point is, it wasn't scripted. Okay, it wasn't scripted. I didn't go, "Hey, Rachel, get me
get that,
food."
Len.
It was.
What I'm saying is they may have been looking down on you for just expecting her.
Okay, let me
to-
ask you this. Let me ask you this. If I go to the side of my car breaks down and then my tires thing, I'm gonna be like, "Where's Matt?" Is someone gonna get pissed at me because I'm like, "Where's Matt?" Of course I'm gonna expect him to come and help me. Would other guys in the room be like, "Oh, she's asking where her husband is? What's wrong with her?" Like, you know, it's so weird. Like, why do the women?
But because that's a traditionally male role.
Well,
You-
isn't serving food
Well-
traditionally female?
Isn't
But I
taking
don't-
care of your
but the
man
way-
in that kind of
But the way,
situation
but in
traditionally
that
female?
situation, but to point it out is just
I
disrespectful.
think there's some
like
problem.
that's,
I think it's hypocrisy here.
It's
It's hypocritical to think, because he says that in that environment, that any other environment, if I'm on the side of the road,
How would you feel if Matt said that about you?
I'd be like,
If you were at a dinner.
I would actually laugh.
If
about
you were
it.
at a dinner and he was like,
I could
"Isn't
get
Dawn around?"
I get
Like,
food.
Listen,
I go get it.
she
It
did.
wouldn't be a
Rachel
big
didn't
deal to
hear
me.
me say it,
I get that.
and my food
You're
came.
missing the point.
And if
like-
Matt said that to his friends, and then his food came, it would be
what
clear.
I'm saying is that,
See, I wouldn't
like,
have a problem just going and getting his food. It'd be no big deal to me. It's not
Well,
like, you know,
it's-
I
and
don't feel subservient to him in any way.
but you were making it about Rachel. Why are we making it about the woman? Why can we not make it about Lenny? And that's what I'm saying. He's blaming the women for making his wife feel away. And really, the way that you address the situation, again, I don't think that they were upset.
She didn't feel away. I'm just telling you that
You just said it put her in an awkward situation with these women.
I did not say that.
That's
I
what you
said
said.
the women looked at her
Okay.
differently when
Let's-
she did that.
Let's move past the dinner.
That's Rachel
Well,
didn't
no,
give
because-
two
but
fucks
what
what
you're
they
missing-
thought.
But what you're missing, Dawn, is also the point that he then says that his boys have been pussified and whatever, and that their wives run the show.
Well, let me tell you this, though.
Yeah,
Pussy
that's
has
true.
power. Okay, so when people say pussified, I'm like, yeah, bring it. We birth children. We're power. I mean, come on, that word.
All the pussy and half the money.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
women have.
But to me, that's not a negative word. It's a powerful word. So you could say that all day long. I'd be like, they're empowered boys then, right? Because they're pussified. So the way, you know, if you say that to me, it's a
Nah.
positive word.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah,
That he might have
I'm
to-
more. That's more about the pussification of America. And
You
it's,
might want to change the lingo.
yeah, maybe, but
Because it's to be respectful, change the lingo.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it is a powerful word, but yet it's got a slang that we need to let go of.
Yeah.
Say something else. Say, you know, what they are is they're, you know, alpha boys. You're raising
But I
alpha
feel like
boys.
this goes back to the whole
Raising beta
conversation.
boys.
Does this not? Thank you. I was just about to
Beta
say,
boys.
us saying
We
change
call
your
them wet-
verbiage
we call them wet noodles.
yes.
is proving the point of this entire conversation. So again, it's like, you know, we're always going to run into situations where people can say, okay, well, that's attacking masculinity, but this isn't. And all I'm saying is I feel like I'm an empowered, independent woman. I love to cook. Not so much the cleaning thing, but hey, we can have a maid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know my strengths and my weaknesses. I have no problem serving a plate, like whatsoever. But I do care about how somebody speaks about me. I do care how somebody addresses me in a public situation. And I do care about how you represent that. If we're out amongst your friends, don't take that for granted. Like, that's why I think I'm offended by the nature of the conversation. It's one of those things, like, you're blessed to have a wife that does dote on you and that does serve you and that does take care of your home and your children. Like, again, that's a blessing, and it's no easy task, especially dealing with someone like you who I love. But you can be a whole ass, and you know that. So what I'm saying is I think it's less about Rachel and what she did and more about you and how you show your appreciation for that. Like, and that to me is the other part of the quote unquote alpha conversation. It's the Andrew Tating of the world, right? Do you know who Andrew Tate is?
I kind of do, but why is he the poster child of alpha?
That's my,
No,
but this is my
he's not really, but
Thank you.
but
your baby Jesus.
he has some points. He
But this
has
is-
some points.
This is the bigger part of the problem when you talk about alpha. You seem to have a very clear idea of alpha versus beta in your mind. And I love that you make these, you know, nature references, because I really do think, well, no, because it's very clear cut in nature. They don't have all the human bullshit that's added into it, right? Like, there's this animalistic.
Well, you can't fight science.
Intrinsicness to it, right? And it's
So there's
very
no
clear.
debate. There's no debate about science.
So then we start adding our personalities into things. But I think that that's the bigger problem. I think that there are a lot of men walking around that are self-proclaimed alphas that couldn't be farther from a fucking alpha if they tried to be. And that to me is a part of the situation. Like, that's where the real conversation comes in.
Yes.
But you have a lot of independent women that have been dealing with quote unquote douchebag fuckboy alphas. Excuse my language. We swear on this podcast. I'm a cursor. Whatever. It's probably because I can't do it in my day job.
We were talking about that outside where every female that you talk to, by the time she hits like 25, she's got a story about some aggressive guy, some asshole, some situation where she's like, oh my God, or even worse, right? Every girl, we grow up fighting all the time, right? As soon as you become a little girl, walk down the street, you're like, right? We're like a squirrel sometimes, like, what's coming around the bend, right? And we grow up having to do that. So we see all the bad behavior in men. As a female, you do. Growing up, you see all of it. You're like, oh my gosh. So it's not surprising that some women get up there and they get older and they're just like, F this. Like, I don't want to have this overbearing, masculinity in my face anymore. Depending, like I said, where they come from. It's all about what happened to you in your life experience. But at the end of the day, if you want to feel taken care of at home, and you want to feel like someone has your back, geared towards maybe someone with alpha tendencies who sees that as a role that they're proud of. I'm proud to take care of my family. And I'm not saying beta men don't. Okay, I'm not against the beta guy. My choice is an alpha guy. That's me. We talking about alpha. That's my choice. Okay, I've been with beta. It's not my thing. I don't like it. I walk over it. I'm not interested. I lose respect. This is how I am. So I'm not saying every girl's like me, but that's what our topic was, right? And that was my opinion.
But I think you have a really good point, Kimmy. Okay, just listen.
Write it
No,
down.
write it down. Let's get that. What time is it? It's time, date, stamp
5:37
that.
okay,
We need
all
this.
right.
What minute was that so we can make a clip out of it? Kimmy has a really good point. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but she made a really good. No, just like I'm sitting here telling you that women are being fed this toxic masculinity narrative. Men are being fed this anybody can be an alpha narrative. Okay? So that's how you're winding up with these man-hating women and these alpha impersonating douchebags. It's the same thing on both sides. It needs to be corrected in both directions, because if that man is taking Andrew Tate's Learn How to Be an Alpha handbook, they're not learning how to be an alpha. They're learning how to be an asshole. Do you know what I mean? So they're not getting that from years of, being polite to women or opening the door for them or taking care of their needs. They're getting that from this short-sighted part of what.
Well, because I can't imagine Andrew Tate opening a door for anybody. Like, really and truthfully. So when you,
I feel you.
But the things that you talk about chivalrous things a lot of times. Like you said, the door opening, the flowers, the quote unquote what traditional romance used to look like.
It's being a man.
And okay, but again, part of that is also learned behavior on the man's part.
But
you understand what I'm saying?
Again, I'm agreeing with you. But that learned behavior is not what these kids are getting. They're not getting that role model that's teaching them that. They're getting this Andrew Tate who's telling them this.
Well,
and the women on the other side are getting the scorned, screaming women that are like, men suck, they're all this, they're all that, they're all this. So you have both extremes there. You have men being told to be animals, and you have women being told to hate men. And that's where we're coming at with this. Do you follow me?
Also, we go back to, it's complex, right? We know that. And how was the male raised? What's his culture he was raised in, right? Certain cultures, you are raised immediately. You take care of things, then you take care of the family. When dad's gone, you're the boss of the house. You take care of mom and everything, make sure it's not about boss. It's about taking care. Make sure they're safe. You know, like if I'm at home and we have some crazy thing that happens, I want Matt there to pull out his gun. Okay. Like I want to make sure he's there and like, you know, taking care of business. I'm not going to be like, I mean, I'll do it if I have to, but obviously I'm going to default to him first. Right.
Yeah.
And
you're going to be
and would you not, and to your point, would you not be more than a little bit disappointed if he, I can't even think of a different word, but if he bitched up and hid behind you? Like, could you imagine? It was like, honey, you go first.
Yeah.
Like,
Can we use
what did you kind of be like, you know?
Can we use
I was just saying,
bitchification?
well, no.
Yeah.
Bitchification is
that's
good
better.
because that's a dog.
Well,
it's a female dog.
Well,
Bitchification.
Well, no. That's why. Like, I was trying to pick a different word.
I like wet noodle.
But we just don't have. Well, if he wet noodle,
The wet noodleification just doesn't have the same punch. I'm sorry.
If he wet noodled out, and hid behind you, that would make you go, okay, we might need to reevaluate some things here, buddy boy, right?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Okay, so I understand that. I just kind of like to go back to the other part of this where it's like, I think that, again, Lenny, we had this conversation last week, and I don't necessarily know that women are trying to emasculate men or women don't know how to be women.
Not.
I just feel like we also have gotten to a place where you're now dealing with women who, there's a saying, men are only as faithful as their options, right? Like that's been a saying that's been around for a very long time, and I hate to put it that way.
That's a whole other topic.
No, but what I'm saying to you is successful men, right? It's one of those things where sometimes people will tell you, listen, honey, do what you need to do because they have options, right? They have options, so you're going to need to come correct all the time. You're going to need to be on your P's and Q's. You're going to need to look great. It's on the internet right now. It's called like a high value man, right? And there's been a lot of conversation about this. You're also dealing with a lot of high value women. You're dealing with women who have their own. You're dealing with women who are becoming more self-confident. You're dealing with women who are now prioritizing their own peace of mind. And they're saying, all the ways that I have to step up when I'm dealing with a high value man and I got to come correct, they're just expecting men to come correct. And I'm not saying that has, to me, that is opening doors. That's being respectful, but it's also being faithful. Like what you bring to the table financially anymore as a man doesn't give you carte blanche to be a douchebag. Like, that doesn't make it there's not a trade-off anymore because I don't need you for the same things I used to maybe need women used to maybe need a man for, right? I don't necessarily, like, Dawn, you don't need Matt to keep the roof over your head. I think you've provided for your child and yourself very well, right? He's making your life better in other ways, but you're not forced to put up with his bullshit if he starts bringing bullshit to the table.
Well, that was where I bring back to my mom's statement as I was being raised. You know, she would instill in me, make sure that you have your freedom in a way, right? Because we all need our internal, as human beings, we need freedom, right? And freedom financially, unfortunately, we live on planet Earth and we need money, okay? So she meant that, you know, make sure you can take care of yourself and your what you want to do, that your lifestyle isn't changed because the relationship doesn't work out.
Or because they fall on hard times. Like that's the other side of it. That's the other side of it too. And that's another scary place when you have women who bring that to the table, that sometimes that can intimidate somebody else. But to me, it's an empowering feeling, knowing that our life doesn't change dramatically because one half of this relationship has hit a wall, right? Like you're going to get back on your feet. But to me, that would be an empowering thing. But in some situations, it's considered emasculating.
Well, okay, and let me ask you this too. Would you really want to be in a relationship where you always have to be on point for some high maintenance guy? You know, really? I mean, is that what people want? Like I understand what you're saying.
You're coming at it from a very privileged perspective though. And I love you, but like you're successful, you have your own, you're beautiful. Like
but
you have the pick of
that.
No, but you have the pick of the litter. No. I'm not saying that anybody gave it to you. You worked hard for it. Okay. So now you also make the decision on who you want to let in your space, right? So when you're talking about being on point, you're on point for yourself.
Right.
When we talk about other people who are looking to somebody to provide a life for them, right? That's where that comes into play. When all you want to do is be pretty, when all you want to do is be taken care of, that being on point part becomes very important because that's usually the first.
Yeah, because that's what you brought to the table.
That's what. And
if you're gonna, if you're bringing
so
something to the table and then all of a sudden it changes, then you have a problem.
And that's what I'm saying. So to that person, they always want to be on point because they understand this is what I brought to the table. But when you're dealing with a high value woman, she gets to flex a little bit and expect you to be on point too.
No, because yes, wait, what? Yes, but on the male side, he expects her to maintain what she brought to the table. It's like it's kind of like, and you mix finances and looks and everything into the equation, and it becomes very difficult. I mean, our relationship,
that's life.
Our relationship, my relationship with Rachel, we never fought over money ever. I went to college, she worked, and I didn't work, and it was normal. We never had ever an issue over money once. So I think she's very successful. I think she's very empowered. She works with me and always worked in our businesses and raised the kids and everything else. Took care of the house. She's done everything. She's probably worked harder than me. But there's still an expectation of me to have that. But, those things, when you bring money into it, like if Dawn fell on hard times or Matt fell on hard times, that shouldn't change the relationship. That should make them work harder towards each other. And I don't think mixing.
It does, but you have to respect them beyond just the financial part of it then. And that's, I think, to the point.
Yeah, but that's what I think is the most important.
It is. But to your point, Len, when we talk about men being men and things like that, unfortunately, like a big part of what men are valued on is their ability to create stability. It's their ability to provide. It's their ability to lead a family.
Tomorrow, if some crazy shit happens and they don't have any money, Matt's going to go out and kill something and feed it to the family. I guarantee you that's going to happen. Yeah. So the man will step up in that role. And it's like,
but I don't know that all men know how to do that. Like that's the other.
And you know what? They'll be working for.
But there's a lot of men that base their value on what they bring to the table materially. We see it all the time here in South Florida. I drive a Rolls Royce. I own this company. This is where I live. I'm in the Porsche building.
Well,
I have a Bugatti.
That's that. If you go back to the tribal community, right? That's bringing back the biggest hog. I got the biggest hog, right? That's just human nature. That's attracting the female, right? You're attracting the female. You're the birds that do the dance and they build those cute nests. You're doing that.
Flaring your feathers.
So if you've got the money and that's, what you have to do to attract the female, it just depends on the culture. Like you said, the environment you're in, there's a lot of complexity to it.
I get that. But when the woman doesn't need you for that, when that is not her priority, a lot of men flounder because they don't know what else they bring to the table beyond these things.
Well,
so when we go back to the alpha perspective, to a lot of men, providing makes them an alpha. Right? A lot of men, I'm successful. This makes me a leader.
If you had a very powerful, successful, let's say a celebrity wife, right? Not you personally, just in general, and she had all the money and you didn't have to do anything really, how would you feel in your role? If she was the star of everything and she was the one making the money, she's Angelina Jolie, and you're
Lenny.
And you're.
I say that with love.
No, like how would that make you feel? But here's the thing. You would find your role, right?
I would
you're
be.
A true alpha,
I would be.
You're
fine.
not going to change.
I would be fine because she's still got needs.
Yep.
And I'm still going to meet those needs. Okay, and it's not about anything else other than that. I'm going to take care of her, whatever she needs. So she doesn't need me to cook, or she doesn't need me to buy stuff for her, or she doesn't need any of this.
She needs you to hug her at night.
She still needs the,
Okay. But so to both of your points, then do you understand why this conversation, why this topic is kind of mind-blowing at times? Because it seems when we have this conversation, Len, as easy as you made that sound, that is actually a lot more difficult for men because maybe every woman isn't at Angelina Jolie status, but you have a lot of women who no longer need the traditional things, but instead they need the communication. Instead they need.
I get that. And it all goes back to men
but that doesn't mean I want you to be
learning what women need and women learning what men need. It's that simple. Women have a honey-do list and men have a honey-do list.
I think it's pretty big.
Man's honey-do list has like 2 fucking things on it.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Feed me and fuck me.
Yep.
That's about it. I'll do anything you want. Just feed me and fuck me. That's it.
Yeah, but okay, so if that's the case, feed me and fuck me, cool. But then why do you have
Let me go fishing.
But then why do you have a
chat.
problem with the independent woman who doesn't want the door held open for her? So this is
That's manners. That's just my thought on it. I mean, I also don't want to date a woman who stabs her steak and goes like this. It's just that.
What if she's doing that so she can feed you? I don't understand.
I still
and while
wouldn't
she's
put up with
fucking
it.
you, I don't know. No.
I have no problem with her feeding me. I have no problem with feeding her. But I wouldn't. That's just that's being a gentleman. That needs to be there too.
Yeah.
That goes to the woman's honey-do list. Men's honey-do list: feed me, fuck me. Women's honey-do list: open the door, take out the trash.
We really have it so much easier. I mean, the truth is, I wouldn't want to date me. My God, Tasmanian devil. But women, we're just more complex. We're our hormones. We're hormonal, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's a positive thing. We make babies. I mean, come on. Without that hormone driving,
there'd be no world.
There would be no
here.
babies. There would be no nothing. And we take care of babies, and we birth babies, and we're powerful, And so we get stressed out. And the nice thing is, you guys are basic. If you were as complicated as we were, I would go
we'd
crazy.
get nowhere.
I need to talk to my lesbian friends on how do you do it, and I mean that with all love to my lesbian friends. I have plenty of lesbian friends, and I sit there and I go, how do you do it? And I don't know. But it's not a negative thing. It's just a thing that's just the way it is. Ask God, why were we brought here this way? Why isn't there a third party? I don't like the you or you. I'm going to go for the avatar instead. God made us. Here we are. This is it. You got to deal with it. And the truth is, we are wired a certain way, and you fight that. You're fighting against an uphill battle. Okay, women, we're more complex. We need more emotional. We're more emotional. We need each other for support. Women can talk to each other and support each other in a way men cannot give us what that we need. We can't. You can't. Your brain isn't made that way. So let's just love the differences, right? Figure out what you want in life. Do you want to be taken care of? Do you want to be nurtured? Do you want to be supported as a female? And if your wiring is bad and you haven't learned what it is that has someone to treat you well, go figure out how to fix that, because it's going to keep replaying over and over again. It doesn't mean that you don't like men or you don't understand it, but maybe you were just brought up in a way that didn't serve you, and you can let go of that. You have a choice to make, a choice of what I want instead. I don't want to be what I was told to be, if that's the case for you. If that's not the case and you want the alpha, go find your alpha guy. Let him open the door for you. Let him take care of you, and you take care of him. I mean, that's what it's at the end of the day. That's what it's about, right? So, it's confusing for kids online. I have a teenager, and I talk to her. What are your roles? And I mean, they see so much stuff. I don't even know how they're going to handle moving forward. I asked my daughter. I said, when you have kids, what are you going to do about technology? She said, my kid's not getting a phone till they're 14. I was like, oh my gosh, wow! I should have done that with you, but we didn't know at the time. So. I think it's complex. It's tough, right? It's hard to figure out, and I think we need leaders to help define those roles again and bring it back, because it's important, because it's our biology. We can't fight your biology.
But what is that? So when you say define those roles, give me the roles.
Meaning, for young men, let's say, growing up in the world, right? Where they need that leadership. If they didn't get it from their father to teach them what a traditional man or what that should be, right? Take care of women. And I say traditional, I'm using just that word. I got to use some word to say it. Okay.
I understand.
But a lot of them don't have those role models. They're just wandering. What am I supposed to be as a man?
Yeah, their role model is Instagram.
Maybe they need role models to come out like Len, like Matt. Matt mentors some boys that don't have a lot of,
But does that include teaching them that no means no? And does that include?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Pass the fuck out on the bed is not free game.
Absolutely.
At the frat party.
I do not think a true alpha male. Okay?
But again, this goes back to the problem.
Yep.
But
I mean a true
listen,
one.
that's just manners. That's upbringing.
Let's use a different term instead of alpha. Let's say chivalrous man.
Okay? That's much better.
That's a chivalrous man who's an alpha base, okay? With a chivalrous, we'll have to add these labels, and has manners. That's what we're talking about.
But to your point, I mean, when it comes to an alpha, there can only be one. In a pack, there's one alpha.
And usually they're not going to be the ones that are going to be invading women's space.
No.
Ignoring your rules. And they got a female bitch there that's like, I'm your mate, and you're going to play by my rules too, because I run the alpha side of the female pack, right? So they come together. Look at the wolves, right? Got the alpha male and the alpha female. And what do? They have beautiful life together, right? And all the betas fall in line, and the
alpha also he regulates. Like when somebody steps out of line, like bitch, you're out.
Yep.
You're out of the
You're
pack.
out.
Like
yes, get out.
be out. And that to me, that's the bigger part of the conversation
Yeah.
that I think sometimes Instagram is leading to and some other things. Like I told Len last week, I said, I'm here for those conversations, especially amongst young men where they're holding each other accountable to being those chivalrous alphas. Like if you can see that your boy is physically making a woman uncomfortable, call him out. Like stop being a dick. There's 100 other girls at this party. She's not interested, homeboy. Instead of sitting there going, I don't want to call my boy out. I don't want to, whatever. Or if you're in the room and the girl is passed out on the bed, like, and there's 8 of you in there, one of you needs to step up and be like, yo, my man, she's asleep. Like, get out, and protect her. Like, that to me, so when we go back to that alpha and traditional roles, like that's part of what's being attacked right now, is where we somehow fell away from that. And I know that it's never been a perfect world that we live in. We've never been in utopia. There's always been assault. There's always been misogyny. There's always been, the mistreatment of quote unquote women. And hopefully there are men out there that are coming to their defense, true leaders that are coming there to regulate a situation, true alphas. But that's what we need more of. We need more of those men who aren't concerned with being the cool one in the crew. They're concerned with being the leader.
That's becoming exceedingly more difficult.
Yeah.
Because of the influence that's out there.
But I don't know that has to do with women. And that to me is also a part of the conversation.
It has to do with everybody.
It's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
do you
these
take
are
it personal
again
because you're a woman?
But these are again
it has to do with men too.
Behaviors. So it's like you have to see that shit at home, because again, it goes back to your point when you talk about women. My mother, my grandmother, all incredibly strong women, right? Did I see functional relationships growing up? No, I didn't. My mother was my stepfather, but it wasn't necessarily like it's not a relationship that I would have aspired to. My dad was I love my dad. I'm 100% my father's child. My mom was incredible, never said a bad word about him when I was growing up. Other people would tell me the stories about why they ended up not together. You know what I mean? So I was able, so she was incredible in that way. She never painted a disparaging picture of him or his behavior, right? Super charismatic, very attractive, but had a chip on his shoulder, felt like he was owed something, right? Like but because he was so charismatic, he was that guy who could just walk into the room and just everybody was drawn to him. He was great at sports. He was, a lot of things. Like I think what people would probably mislabel an alpha man. Do you know what I mean? Just because of how he carried himself and that charisma. And he wasn't a beat on your chest, but like, he can't provide for a family. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, but something inside of him told him he was entitled to these things. Something he saw growing up, I don't know, whatever. But mom, grandma, everybody held it down, took care of the family. So as a woman, when you grow, like I can remember playing house and not necessarily like, or having your Cabbage Patch dolls, there was not always a dad. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's when we talk about how you're raised and what you see. So it's so important to witness healthy, functioning
Well, that goes back
relationships.
to why dads are so important in
Facts.
a family, right? I mean,
But did you have yours your whole life? It doesn't sound like it.
I had him my bio dad, but then I have a stepdad too. So I had dads and then uncles. There doesn't have to be a dad.
My uncle was incredible, but my uncle was the guy who cooked, very chivalrous, like, you know what I mean, took care of the family, was
male
fun.
Figures growing up that you influence on and you learn from.
But again, that was a dysfunctional relationship.
But again, influence that's coming now, a lot of it is coming from outside the home. Yeah. A lot of it is coming from
the
internet, from TV, from everywhere. The bombardment of information that kids are getting now deludes the normal family. Mm-hmm. Even if you have a functional family, the kids of today are getting deluded by everything else.
Well, it's also there's too many choices. Like, and I have a teenager, so I'm right in that pulse of what's going on with them, and there's almost a thing like you can't say anything, because I'll get it's offensive or this is offensive. And
I have a pair of them. They love me.
Yeah, and I know, and us too. We have lots of debates in the car and stuff like that. And I try to be, in the middle because I want to lead them gradually into thinking for themselves. And, you know, my daughter, tons of pictures of her with her little computer mocking me when I had my business and stuff. And so she was raised that way. But I always instilled in her, I said, you know, you still need love. You still, even though you can be on your own, you still want to have that vulnerability to have a man in your life or a woman in your life, whatever works for you, that you can rely on as a partner, right? Well, however that looks, but never be disrespected. And so I think what we're talking about at the end of the day, like you said, is manners. How are you treated? What's your story in your head that you grew up with? Is it sucking for you? Is it causing you problems? Go figure it out and get it changed, right? Like we can change our subconscious mind in a flash, right? So for women out there that are watching this and you're like, I'm so confused. I don't know. I'm in a bad relationship. Why is my guy treating me this way? I don't feel loved. I don't feel cared for. I don't feel respected. Well, why is that? Start looking at it. Start open. You have this life. Like, figure it out, you know, and start analyzing who's around you. What are you surrounding? What are you going for? What are you putting yourself out there for? Who are you dating if you're single? You know, and start realizing what message have you been fed, and is that the message that will bring you what you want in your life, and that love and that care. And if it's being with the alpha guy and that works for you, great. At least identify it, you know. If it's not, that's great too. There's not like a choice this way or that way, but I think it is more confusing because there's so many, and especially with the gender thing and identification, there's a lot of open end. It's almost too many choices.
There's
so many choices. People are like, I don't know where I fit in. So
and you know, it also boils down to, where do you draw the line? You know, I mean, if someone is 98% something, or 98% of what you're looking for, and then that other 2% is the deal breaker.
But that I think, honestly, after an hour and change of the conversation, that to me is the bigger problem in relationships. 1 million trillion %. At this point, you're dealing with two sexes that have both figured out that they can do this shit on their own, right? And that, you know, they have options or whatever the case may be. And now it's, again, what you're seeing on social media. Like, we're fed a timeline full of these Instagram couples that do nothing but travel around to exotic locations in Bali, making hearts in the sand and watching sunsets and all of this beautiful shit. But it's like, you know, you don't see the fight that they had standing in, you know, customs line because she packed too much, you know, the suitcase is overweight, or because he forgot his passport back. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, we see this instant gratification of relationships, and at the end of the day, their work. Like, as incredible as Matt is, I'm sure you guys still work at your relationship.
Oh, yes.
Every single day. Lenny, you've been married for 150 years. You still work every single day.
You have to.
At your situation.
Again, that goes down to people coming in with these expectations of perfection. It's not going to happen.
But
you know, we're human.
But to me, the problem is this. When the guy sees the physical girl that he loves, right? Oh, my God, this is it. And now all of a sudden we're vibing. If you're the guy that knows you want to be catered to, you got to say that shit up front. Like, you know what I mean? Because then it's don't get 6 months in and then all of a sudden you're disappointed because you don't have
be yourself day
the
one.
person
I get
that you were
Maybe
looking
we should
for.
make a little pamphlet that we give to them. Like, here you go.
Well,
Here's my menu.
But I'm sure
Do you want the food or not?
this is what I said when I say
the problem is the man is always going to say, yes, I want the
'cause
food.
he wants the food. But and to my point earlier, Dawn, when I said you come at this from a very privileged perspective, it's that I think that you're very self-aware. I think you're very much in tune with who you are and what you want. And I think it took you a minute to get there.
Yeah, it definitely took a minute to get here. And I got to tell you that I want to make sure that women don't think I just landed here.
No.
Okay, like
and
I had a lot of work. I had a lot to go through and all kinds of growth. But the thing that I would say that I want to stress the message to, especially the female audience, if there's females that watch the show.
Yes.
Is that you have the power to make the decisions and change the narrative that you were raised in if it doesn't work for you. And you can do that right now. Okay, your subconscious mind is so powerful. And what happens is you're seeing all this stuff, and what's really driving all of us is our subconscious mind. What is the record that you're playing over and over and over again? And if you're not meeting that guy or the partner in life that you want, You need to look at yourself and figure out, what message am I always going for? Do I feel like I need to be eye candy all the time? Am I going to go, and no offense to Miami, I love Miami, but I'm going to be, it's all about physical, and I'm only going to land the player that's got the money, and then how long am I going to be attractive to him because I'm just another piece of eye candy? And nothing offensive about that, but that's just the game you're playing. If you choose that game, you're in that game, right? How is that going to fulfill you? Is it going to fulfill you to be eye candy for how long?
Or you're walking into it thinking that, right?
You don't know.
And you don't know. And then that ends up affecting how you interact with this person, the level of openness you have. So again, that communication part is probably the most strained. It's amazing because we have so many ways of communicating at 2023 now, yet communication between actual humans, I feel like it's absolutely failing. And when I say that, and I know that you mentor a lot of women, I think that that's the other thing that women in particular face. And I know men feel the same pressures, but it's one of these things where it's like we're so conditioned to present ourselves as this, what we think somebody wants, right? Like, or whatever. And so being honest and upfront, it's like if you're in a situation and you're dating, I think in a lot of female brains, and I can't speak for men because I'm not a man, but for a lot of women, it's like, I put this time into this, and now do I walk away? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and was I being my authentic self? Was I saying everything that I needed? Was I saying everything that I wanted? Was I being upfront with what I'm looking at this relationship to be?
Well, and I agree with you on that. I think more people spend time on deciding what kind of car they're going to buy than what kind of person they want to have in their life, right? They just go with this fly, oh, this looks good, this looks good. It's like, that's a partner in your life that's going to affect your life in so many ways, right? And if the idea is you want to be in a relationship, you want to be with someone who's going to be strong, let's say we call it the chivalrous alpha guy, look at your hard wiring. I always go back to that because, people don't understand so much how that plays into your vector. Let me put it this way. So if you were a female, let's say, I'm using total stereotype, and you were raised with a female in the family that was submissive, that didn't have rights, that didn't have a voice, and the male was domineering and all this, you know very well that you're going to be replaying that in your subconscious mind. You can't fight it. 1 through 5, you are set in a certain way. Now we have the power to change it, but you can't change it if you can't identify it. If you don't see it, you don't know it's there. So the first thing is, I think, is everybody, men, women too, is look at what is the record that I've been told and the role that I think I'm supposed to be all the time. Is that actually working for me? If it's not, go sign up for some hypnotherapy and knock that shit out. Okay, like you go, if you have a bad nose, go get a nose job, cut it out and replace it.
It's the same or similar to trauma or abuse. Those patterns are set in your head. Everybody's got a pattern. Just because it wasn't trauma or abuse, it still shaped you.
But that's why I'm saying, like, what we see when we grow up as far as healthy, functioning relationships plays such a big role in how we end up dating down the line. And if you're not in a position where you can, like you said, acknowledge the fact that you may have gotten some shit wrong, or you may have seen some shit that was off. And I'm not talking about just having
an
two
unhappy
parents. That's not what I'm talking. I'm not just talking about seeing people married. I'm talking about healthy, functioning, respectful relationships, right? Like, and those are two very different things, because there are plenty of kids who grow up in households, you hear it all the time. Two of my mom's very good friends, parents were together for years, probably 35 years. Their kids were in their late 20s, early 30s, and then they got divorced. And it was like like their entire world exploded because the parents never fought in front of them, never argued in front of them. And to them, they felt like their whole life was fraudulent, right? Because when they sat down and actually had conversations with their parents as adults, it's like, we haven't really liked each other in a very long time. We totally stayed together for you guys and whatever. No. But when they started addressing how that affected them in their relationships, like, it rocked their whole world, right? Yeah. And so at that moment, it was like, wait a minute, everything I know in my mind is a farce. Right? So it's like, you have to just be able to Dawn's point, acknowledge what you've seen, how that's affecting the decisions that you're making, even playing into, if you're sitting there and everything you're liking on Instagram is that couple photo of the couple that's traveling and whatever else, like, okay, maybe there's something else going on in your mind. And if you're romanticizing the idea of a relationship, yeah, it's no wonder everything is failing. If that's what you're thinking every day is going to be like when you're, in a full partnership with somebody, like, you are sadly, I hate to say it, but mistaken, right? And we like this instant gratification in 2023.
I think I can't say that. I could say the relationship might not always be easy, but you don't have to be happy. You can find relationships that you're happy with the whole time. Are you going to have struggles? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you can work those struggles together, you're going to be that much farther ahead. But it's not always going to be.
Oh, no, I'm just talking about
You know what I mean? Travel channel.
Drawing hearts in the sand is all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Like,
I think the truth is,
but it can be.
Yeah, with human nature, though, happiness isn't really what we're craving, right? We're craving, as human beings, happiness is fleeting. It's certain days of the month, perhaps, right? You're happy and you're like, am I happy? I'm happy right now. Okay, for this moment, I'm happy.
I'm happy.
But the truth is challenge, discipline, being there. I love to look at like martial arts, like that discipline. People do better with discipline. We do better with challenge.
Yes.
We do better when things are not always going easy. Otherwise, who does well when you're soft and cozy? Who does well? Mm-hmm. What are you motivated to do anything, right? We can see that all the way around. So, at the end of the day, happiness isn't really what you're striving for in a relationship at the end of the day. Although it's a word to define, I'm happy. But it's not really what is making the whole thing work and what we really want out of life as human beings, right? And I forgot to say, I have a hypnotherapy license, by the way. So that's why I bring up the subconscious mind. And when I talk about that, like in class, I have a real quick trick everybody can do, and maybe we can roll it up with this. Yeah. So you want an alpha guy, you want to be happy, you want all these things in life. Okay, let's start up here. Okay, a quick trick that you can do, doesn't cost you a dime, is you can write, I call it the $1 million sticky note, and it works fabulous to drive you in the direction you want to go. You just get some sticky notes, some Post-it notes, and you write one goal that you wanted. You do one for personal, one for professional, and you put it on your bathroom mirror, right, where you brush your teeth, so you have to look at it every day. And what's going to happen, you could say, I want to make a certain amount of money this year, 2023. Or and this worked because I did it that's how I manifested Matt, is I had it on my sticky note, even said to the day, a ranch, I want blue-eyed. I didn't say Texan, but I could have. I said Alpha. I wrote that in there, like a strong guy, right? So anyway, and a year later, there it was. It all came true. I'm not saying I have magic power, but you write that on there. What happens every day is you go in there and you have your days where you look at it and you brush your teeth. You go, yeah, right. That's not whatever. Who cares? You don't believe it, right? And then you go in there and you're like, yes, I got this. Like, you know how we have those days where we're like so excited, we're like, I'm on fire, nothing go wrong today. Okay, yeah, you got it, I'm in. And then another day you're like, before bed, you're like, I don't know about this. Maybe I'm just being stupid, right? But what happens is your subconscious mind is like a puppy dog. It follows what you tell it to do, directives, right? If you tell it wishy-washy, if you tell a puppy, go over there, go over here, go over there, go over here, look at that shiny object, go over here, what is the puppy going to do? He's
it's going to shit everywhere.
Yeah, right? But if you say, puppy, go sit in the corner, what's the puppy going to do? Over a couple days, it's going to go, okay, I'm supposed to go sit in the corner. I'm going to go over here. Your subconscious works that same way. So even though you might not believe what you're seeing and understand it, your subconscious is feeding it. It's getting that and going, this is what you want me to do. Oh, finally, you gave me a directive, okay? And you're not wishy-washy all over the place. You're focused. You said, okay, I want this kind of person in my life now. I don't want to be treated this way. This is what I want. You will start finding that when you go out to that club or whatever, your subconscious will now direct you automatically over here. You won't even notice the stuff you're not supposed to be a part of anymore. You will automatically start going that way. And you do these in little increments, and you start getting disciplined in your brain and disciplined in the way you treat your own brain. You'll be shocked at how quickly things change for you. I mean, instantly. It doesn't take long. That's why I love hypnotherapy, because it gets to the root of the cause and you can clear the garbage out really fast. That's just my opinion. But it's a great tool anybody can use. And if you want to go for the alpha guy, or you want to have, you could call it the chivalrous man. Ladies, what I recommend, men, put it on your sticky note. I want someone who treats me with respect. I want to be cared for. I want love. I want, whatever your list is, but make sure you know what that list should be. right? It's not about the fly. Like, if it's to be the NFL player, if that's what your game is, and say, I want to meet a loving, caring, respectful NFL player.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be eye candy for someone that loves me.
Very
right?
important to be specific.
Right?
Very important to be specific,
So,
for sure.
Anyway, this has been fun.
I love it.
If you want to, you can tell everybody your website or anything like that. If you want to, that's up to you. You don't have to.
Yeah. So if,
Shameless plug time.
So it's vinestudios.co, and then we have Vine Beauty Academy, and we're in Washington State. And what we do right now is we train mainly women. Men can do it as well, but we train them to build their own business opportunities in the beauty sector at the highest paying one, which is permanent cosmetics. We also do all permanent cosmetics. But the nice thing that we also do, too, is we work with scar and trauma. That's where the trauma comes in. So we work with veterans, people who have burns, trauma, cancer survivors. It's really empowering to give them back what they feel they've lost physically. And then we also do SMP. So there's a lot of things, but if you're a creative person and you want to start your own business, you can get going pretty quickly. So that's what we do right now. Yeah.
Love it. Well, Dawn, we appreciate you coming straight off the ship.
Oh my gosh.
Right here to the ManTFup studio for an incredible conversation. Len, you done good. Meet more friends at the bar, okay? More friends at the bar.
Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah,
I'll get right on that tonight.
I'm sure you will. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, follow, drop your comments, especially on our TikTok and our Instagram. You never know when your comment will actually become the content for the next conversation. And make sure you obviously get our podcast any and everywhere you can find them. Apple, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart. We're pretty much everywhere. Yeah. For sure. Dawn, thank you again. Dr. Dawn. Matt, thank you for being such a good sport. I don't know how he just sat there. Matt is Dawn's fiance, as we referenced him numerous times and didn't interject in the conversation. But it's been incredible. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you guys
Thanks.
so much. I appreciate it.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.